Hey traders, David Frost, My Strategic Forecast. You're here for another episode of Common Sense Market Analysis. Today is Monday, November 4, 2024. We're looking at a daily chart of the SPY or Spider, which is the proxy for the S&P 500. What do we have on that docket today? We have a big week on our hands. So all in all, the SPY was down about $1.23 today. The SPX was down 16 points. It's not that big of a deal. The market didn't really get very far, but let's notice what she's doing and what we have on the board this week. She's now putting in a bearish, flaggish type of situation from Thursday's down day. We had a DCB or dead cat bounce on Friday, but didn't get anywhere. Basically tested the top of Thursday's breakdown candle. And then today she's hovering down near the lows. So therefore, and by the way, the 50-period moving average. So she's beginning, ING in italics, beginning to create a bearish, flaggish situation. But what do we have on the board this week? Well, it's obvious. Tomorrow, on the 5th of November, we have the presidential election here in the U.S. Who's going to win? We don't know. Will we even find out tomorrow who's going to win? Probably not. One thing we can state with a high degree of what we'll call accuracy is change is coming. If you get candidate A, you're going to get big sweeping changes. If you get candidate B, you're going to see big sweeping changes, whether you believe it or not. Change is coming. Everybody's going to get some kind of change. Just be careful of what kind of change you think you're voting for. What else do we have on the board this week? Believe it or not, we have the FOMC Kabuki Theater situation. Federal Open Markets Committee. The Fed has a 2-day meeting because of the election rather than Tuesday, Wednesday, it's Wednesday, Thursday. So we'll get an interest rate announcement on Thursday following the election. Pretty interesting stuff. A lot of stuff on the board / docket this week. What's the Fed expected to do? I believe they're expected to lower rates once again, maybe 25 basis points, could be 50. What's the market baked into the cake? I don't know. Let's just call it 25. Doesn't make any difference. She's going to do what she's going to do, meaning Mrs. Market. We talked about these trend lines last week on the chart. I left them up there because this is an important zone that if she found herself in this zone over the next day or so, we would be expecting a bounce back in the other direction under normal garden variety conditions. However, we have the election. If the market decides to take one win or the other and run with it to the up or downside, and if it's the downside, of course, these numbers could be left in the dust. This is what we'll call an exogenous event. As rumors surface on Tuesday about who's winning the election, the market may move in one direction or another, giving you a hint on who the market indicates or wants to win. But those will just be rumors until the final announcement is made. Whether or not it's Tuesday evening or some point in the future, we will find out, and this will get passed, and we will move on. Remember, change is coming. Here's what we're going to boil down the SPY to. The bull case is getting above Thursday's high, 575.63. That would be positive for the bull case. Dropping them into this zone is the near-term bear case. Anybody make money today inside the numbers? Let me give you the short answer. Yes. Let's go find out where that existed. We'll circle back to stocks on the move later. 9 o'clock a.m., 30 minutes before the markets open for business. What's the scoop? We'll start with the early pivot today, 571.75. What's an early pivot? That means above she's bullish, below she's not, 571.75. Pivot. Here's a 5-minute chart. Right of the vertical is today's activity. The blue horizontal line is at 571.75. That was your pivot. Above she's bullish, below she's not. She tried to get above, stay above, but at the end of the day, couldn't do it. Ended up trading below pretty much all day long, minus this little period of time in the late morning session. The question is, where was the trade today? Well, let's go find out. You'll see I start citing below and she can leak down toward 569.85 or more. There's a gap left open at 568.55. Above the pivot, she can run to a next number up above in the sequence, 573.75 or 35. Didn't do that. We don't have to worry about that. Here's a scoop. Still before the opening bell, reiteration of the pivot. Above, she's bullish. Below, she can fall. 569.85 is the first place of support from where I sit. 569.85. She tested it. She spiked it. She ripped it back up in the other direction. Traders had a nice trade. We took the base hit off, held the trailers for more exits. Where was another exit? Right back at the pivot. Why do we know that? Because way more often than not, she's going to fight back to the pivot. If you can identify the pivot, you can trade around the pivot. Write that down, put it on a sticky note. Remember, pause the video, read the notes, go back to the chart to double check the work. By 9:47, nice bounce off 569.85. Funny how that works. Nice trade. The rest is trader's choice. Holding a trailer is fine. 571.75 is the pivot. So it starts out early in the morning before the opening bell, identifying the important stuff. As the market begins to trade, the market opens. She's testing important stuff. And then what happens? She bounces off a support number, goes back to the pivot. We're reiterating what we already knew a half an hour or an hour ago. Pause the video, read the notes, go back to the chart, and double check the work. It's all in here each and every day, everything you need to trade the S&P, the SPY successfully, whether you trade options, you trade futures, micros, exchange-traded products, any way you want to look at it, it's all in here for the trading pleasure. Stocks on the move. We had three possibilities today. VST was the one that hit its entry objective. As you can see here, we had a 114.18, 112.40. That's a zone. Let's go take a look at what happened on VST. There's a chart of VST getting a bit of a buzz cut at the opening bell. Came into the first, sliced through, went right to the second, ripped it back in the other direction, another test. And then you see what happened at the end of the day. They basically floated them above the support zone all day long. They gave you the base hit and then some on the initial bounce. First time, best time. If you paint by the numbers, your average cost is about $13.35, $13.40. Minutes later, you find them up at a high of $15.59. They gave you the deal. VST, Vista Corp. We also have the table of markets. Spider, Qs, IWM, SMH, TLT, GDX, crude oil, gold, silver, natural gas. If you want another market and it makes sense and there's demand for it, let me know and I'll add it in. What this is going to happen, or what's going to happen from here, is I think I'm going to keep this and keep doing it. I'll absorb the extra work. We're going to have a price increase shortly. Everybody that's already a member for Inside the Numbers or the live room will be grandfathered in, but there will be a price increase in the near term, sooner than later. It's more work, it's more information, it's more value, and therefore it works for everybody. As an example, here are the Qs, 15-minute chart, right of the verticals, today's activity. One of the resistance numbers up on the board, and here's a support number up on the board, and you can see what happened. The market traded in between two numbers, creating a range today. This was provided yesterday on Sunday. It was before the market opened Monday morning for business. This is just one of the other markets we cover. IWM 221.05, a resistance number today. They spiked it, but they came back down. It pays to know your numbers. How about silver futures? How about 32.94? How about 32.63? See a bounce off that number. You see a decline off 32.94. It pays to know your numbers. Should I keep going? Do the homework yourself. Check the numbers. Go back to the charts. Double check the work. This is information that you can use to your benefit each and every day. This is exactly what Inside the Number members in the live room are seeing on their screens each and every day. And these are the numbers in that table that Inside the Number members get each and every day. What about the daily chart of Camp IWM? Any material change? They were up $1.11 today, 0.5%, sandwiched in between the 20 and 50 period moving average. We're not going to make a federal case out of that. Markets are going to move after the election. We're just going to accept that as a fact. And we may have a range tomorrow, maybe some volatility based on rumors, but she's going to really move after the election. Same thing with the folks down at the transportation department, up a little bit today, down a little bit today, above all the moving averages. Trend is your friend, and we'll just leave it at that for the time being until about a day from now after the election has passed. The Q people are doing much of the same routine as the SPY people in terms of the down day on Thursday, couple of days sideways. We call that a bearish, flaggish situation in the making. No change from the SPY. If you bring up the daily of the SPY, it's the same routine. SPY, Qs. SPY, Qs. Charts look virtually the same. If they're going to kill the Qs, 475 is your bogey. Write that down. Put it on a sticky note. It's 475, give or take. That's your bogey. What about the financial folks? The XLF, representative of the financial space, 45.90. They're coming close. They came close today. They're edging down below the 20 period moving average. You have a changing, ing in italics, changing in trend. Right now, where's she headed? Test the breakup candle low and the most recent breakout area represented by this price over here. That's why the blue line exists. It's for two reasons. Breakup candle low, breakout area. She's coming in to test that area. Happens to have a 50 period moving average just underneath. Funny how that works. There are no coincidences in the market. We've been waiting for 45.90 for quite some time. That blue line has been on the board for a while. Smash mouth, we know about this one. We have the big $14 down day. I said that was a canary type of situation. She's also putting in a bearish, flaggish situation down here at the lower end of these moving averages. The 50 period moving average, you lose that. You got the 200 and that's about it. And below the 200, you're looking at 2.25, 224. Not going to all happen in one shot, but it's not strong anymore. It's weak. You have lower highs. When you pan out a little bit and bring up the weekly chart, you can see here in Smash Mouth, you got a potential lower high rollover situation. So you have a high, a lower high, and she's rolling, ing in italics, rolling over. Closed last week below the 20 period moving average, starting this week below. She's been riding the 20 for quite some time. Doesn't have the same luster as it does before, but if she starts to drip, guess what? The 50 will come into play. Moving average, that is. If I told you how much I appreciate each and every one of you, without you, these videos, they're not possible. That is true and accurate information. We're pulling the ripcord here today. I'm David Frost, My Strategic Forecast. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Common Sense Market Analysis.